is the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday and welcome in to the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream. I am James Grande, joined by Keith Eister. You can follow Keith on the old X machine. You could read in his little name there, EYS819 DFS with an @ in front of it, of course, as Twitter goes. And you can follow me at @the_real_Grande. Keith, happy Monday. What's going on? You had the playbook that you guys can find over at fantasyalarm.com today. 7 games on the docket, kicking off 7 p.m., ending at 9. Keith, what's your initial thoughts on tonight's 7-gamer?
Yeah, fun slate. I think we're going to have all kinds of news. We have a massive total between the two fastest teams in the NBA, so that's fun. Didn't quite get to the 254 that we speculated on last night. 252.5 still sounds pretty good, though. And then Houston has a very lengthy injury report. The Jazz are tanking again. That one doesn't matter quite as much because everybody's pretty much priced where they should be. The Jazz just do this way too often for it to matter. And then Ja is the other big one I think that we're waiting on. But we should have plenty of news, plenty of value. There's nobody over 11K. So SGA, the most expensive player on DK, that is, he's over 11K on FanDuel. But no Jokic, no Luka, no Giannis. So don't have anyone to get way up to. And there should be plenty of value. So should be pretty easy to make the lineup that you want.
Yeah, a lot of news today. A ton of it. Chet Holmgren off the injury report. There was a lot of stuff in Miami. Khalil Ware was a downgrade to out today. Wiggins could be back. Davion Mitchell was a midday downgrade as well. So there is a lot still to break. We had another shoot-around attendee, not participant, in Ja Morant. So keep that in mind. He was there. In what capacity? That's not clarified. He was there, right? So it is something to note. I'll bring up the DraftKings slate. For all those first-time viewers, welcome in. We do this thing 5 times a week, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. We also have a pre-show, same thing, which first look. This is the more, obviously, detailed look as we get closer to roster lock. If you guys would be so kind, hit the like button, turn the notification bell on so you know when we go live and when we post, and also subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Breaking down the DraftKings slate, we go position by position. You mentioned it, no one over 11K. The 2 top guys and the only 2 over 10K are at point guard, so we could just start right there, Keith. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 10-6, second leg of a back-to-back. Cade Cunningham, 10-1, gets Utah on the second leg of a back-to-back. And Detroit, down a piece that you and I kind of possibly overlooked last night in Tobias Harris. He is not playing this evening. We have LaMelo Ball at 97. We have Trae Young, 96. Kyrie, 95. Stephen Curry, 92. Tyrese Maxey, $9,000. A lot of big names above $9,000. If you had to whittle down your player pool to just a couple, who would make it? Because, as a large field tournament player, I'm sure that you will sprinkle in shares of everybody. But if you're whittling down a player pool to that of players that are single entry or cash or just one entry in the $5 that could win you $100,000 tonight, what would that player pool look like?
Yeah, point guard is a really strong position, especially at the top end. Probably the strongest, probably where you're spending up the majority of the time because of the strength of this position. The guy that jumps out because of the matchup is Cade Cunningham. Had been smashing there for a good stretch. A little bit of a step backwards in his last 2 games, but the matchup against Utah is elite. They're the worst defensive team in the NBA. They've ruled out a bunch of guys as well on top of that. So Cade is just in an absolute smash spot. Trae Young is in that extremely fast-paced, high total game that we mentioned as well against Memphis. Kyrie is doing everything for Dallas. So those are my 3 primary guys in this range. It's not very often that we get to play SGA sub 5% ownership, though. Yeah. We'll see what Houston ends up doing. And it's a back-to-back for the Thunder, obviously. But it does not appear that anybody is playing SGA. And that's largely due to the 3 guys that I just mentioned right below him for a little bit cheaper. But we know SGA has that ceiling. You mentioned that guy that's low owned that might win you that 100K. I think SGA is a good guy to take a couple shots on today.
Yeah, if that game is competitive and Houston has its horses, we already know Van Vliet's out, but everyone else was at shoot around. So we'll see what they choose to go with. They play Indiana tomorrow. So I guess take your pick at who you're going after, right? Do you want to go after OKC or do you want to go after Indiana? One's in your conference, one's not. So maybe it's tonight. Maybe it's tomorrow. We'll see. But SGA obviously going to be low, and as you mentioned, recent performances don't mind. I don't care for with Cade really. They happen. He has not been this player versus the whole season sample, right? So I'll take one sample versus the 2 game. I click Curry. The Kyrie thing is interesting. Dallas and Sacramento, Keith, are actually tied. Technically, Sacramento is the 9 seed right now based on 1 less loss. But this game will decide like positioning for the winner. So if they finish in a tie, the winner of this game, I believe, will hold the tiebreaker. And again, they're the 9-10 seed, separated by half of game out of 6. We're going to see 40 minutes. I almost guarantee we have, if you were to set the like over under at like 4.5 players in this game playing 40 minutes, I would take.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Dallas extremely shorthanded still, obviously. No Anthony Davis, no PJ Washington. Kyrie has had a usage rate above 31% over his last 7 games. He's just doing everything for this team as he needs to. He's basically the last guy left standing there. They're trying to maintain their position and get everybody back healthy so they can make a run in the playoffs. But Kyrie also coming with like less than half the ownership of Cade. So Cade's in the obvious matchup, but I'm totally on board with you. Kyrie at 9,500 has a huge ceiling in this spot.
When we drop below $9,000, it's Ja if he plays, but if he doesn't, who are some of the other targets?
Hero has a really great matchup. He has shown a ceiling all season long. No Khalil Ware there for them. Possibly no Andrew Wiggins as well. So maybe a little bit of extra usage. He already gets plenty of it anyway. We know he can dish out double-digit assists in any given game as well. So I really like Hero and the matchup there. Little blowout risk, obviously, but just kind of got to put that out of your mind and plug him in. Moving down a little.
Miami is a good. Miami
that's fair.
Is good. They're not very good. I know Washington's like as bad as it gets, but Miami second leg of a back-to-back down a bunch of pieces.
That's fair. Especially they could lose Davion Mitchell as well, as you mentioned. So definitely could be an interesting situation there in Miami. Like Hero a good amount. Amen Thompson's been a ceiling guy. He's on the injury report. It's a really tough matchup for him in OKC, unless he was like the only guy active with. If it's him and Jalen Green running the offense, then maybe I'm interested. But don't love the spot for him. Right. I think we need to go down a little bit further. Simons is always a guy I like to play for ceiling. Dyson Daniels in that game environment would probably be the next name I have a lot of interest in.
Yeah, I mean, that game really... Oh, we have some news here. The first domino to fall today is Kelly Oubre. He is ruled out for Philadelphia. He was downgraded midday. I am very excited for Philly to have nobody available. So
I was going to say, is it time to run it back with old Quentin Grimes? We'll get to that.
Oh boy, that's. We will. Unfortunately, we will get to that. Honestly, I shouldn't even say unfortunately because I looked. We'll go over. I have my notes here. The Quentin Grimes numbers actually don't look all too bad during his time with Philadelphia. I agree on the Daniels front. Love that he now has point guard eligibility again. He had lost it for like a week or two. Naturally, I started showing interest in Dyson Daniels recently again, and his production tails off. But he is. You said it perfectly on the show last night. It doesn't really change for Dyson Daniels. Like nothing gets you like, oh, this matchup. No, Dyson Daniels is just a guy that can go out and get you 7 steals or 11 rebounds or score 20 and have like 6, 5, and 4. And you're like, oh, right. Guy can do it all. So yeah, he is a GPP play for sure because just can get you there in so many different directions. What do you make of? Are we in on Utah if like Sexton and Collins get ruled out? Like, what's your take on the Houston guards here or the Utah guards here? Like, we know for a fact Markkanen's out. We know for a fact Jordan Clarkson out. But what would make you most interested in Keontae George?
Collins doubtful as well, right? So probably expecting him. Yeah,
Collins doubt and Collins.
Yeah. So
and Collins
the Sexton thing is interesting. Does he come back and take up a bunch of usage from those two guys? I kind of feel like he does. I'm still interested in George in that role off the bench. He should have the same role, kind of filling the role that Clarkson played early in the season. George is definitely the guy that I feel most comfortable with, and I have interest in him even if Sexton does play. Collier, I'm a little bit more iffy on. I feel like with Kessler active and with Sexton, if he plays, then he's going to be struggling for the usage. He could go out and get you 12 points and 10 assists and be useful, but I think it's less likely if Sexton is in there. So Collier, I'm probably saving for if Sexton is out, but if he's out, then I am interested.
Yeah, you were not wrong about them being priced appropriately. They have I'm happy that they're there because it's been like drooling. People have just clicked Keontae George over and over and over and over and over again, right? It's just been like every slate he's had massive ownership. Dropping below the Utah guys, what do we like in the value range? Obviously, there's a lot of like would-be good plays down here. Based on like all the questionable tags, besides the would-be good plays, who are the plays right now that you can definitively get
Memphis is the team to obviously watch there with the Ja news.
Yep.
I'm interested in Bub Carrington just because there's no Jordan Poole. Not a great matchup against Miami for him, but a guy who could find his way into a bigger role today. Davion Mitchell's been playing a ton of minutes. He's on the injury report. He's not very good per minute. So I have less interest in him than I did last night. You and I both liked him a little bit, but with him popping up on the injury report, it just feels hard to see him push for 37, 38 minutes again, which is what he has been playing. And he's a guy that you need the minutes out of. So kind of lukewarm on Davion Mitchell now if he plays. Terrence Mann, a guy we talked about a good amount. He also has small forward eligibility. So if we want to save him for small forward, that's fine. But definitely a guy I have interest in. The game environment and the minutes have looked really good recently. He's playing like 26, 27 minutes in the last 3 games, and his usage, where he was not a usage guy with the Clippers at all. He was down around 13.5%. He's up to 17.5% his last 3 games. So still not a huge usage guy, but he does a little bit of everything. Can get you a couple of steals, couple of assists. If he's out there for 27 minutes, I don't mind Terrence Mann in this game environment.
Yeah, and another thing that you and I kind of missed last night, Georges Niang was ruled out. So they have no Niang tonight. They essentially closed. He didn't close last game, but it makes you wonder. I don't understand this. They closed Ricochet, Muhammad Gay, Keaton Wallace, Barlow, and Niang. I don't understand why Niang was in that final lineup, but he was. But Terrence Mann was on the floor with Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, Ricochet, and Trae Young. So, like, looks like Mann would have closed over Niang, and then Niang weirdly played garbage time, which, again, doesn't make any sense. But maybe that was like hey, we're going to sit you next game, so here's your garbage time minutes. But it is a good note. The usage up 0.92 fantasy points per minute this year with Terrence Mann on the floor since joining Atlanta. I'll take 0.92 for a point guard small forward eligible player and a 250 total. I don't know about you, but like sometimes when I look at someone at like a specific fantasy point number. If there is a game environment like this where there's clearly more points, like 20 more implied points than any other game on the board, I do typically give them a tick in that box. Like it's 0.92. I wouldn't be surprised to see Terrence Mann at a fantasy point per minute tonight, just given the up and down.
I definitely factor in totals a ton. They're in the projections typically a little bit anyway with pace of game and things like that, expected points scored. But like it's just, you just feel more comfortable about a guy in a 250 total as opposed to a 220 total.
100% agree. Just someone I wanted to circle back to because I just saw Delano Banton. No Jeremy Grant, no Ayton, no Rob Will. What do we think of Scoot?
Yeah, I'm in Scoot. Banton, I thought you were going there. I'm not sure that he has the role.
I'm gonna circle. Okay. I'm gonna circle back to Banton. I'll circle back to Banton, but I just saw him and I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I prefer Sharp probably, but Scoot definitely has flashed a ceiling at times for sure, and they're shorthanded a little bit enough to where Scoot could certainly find a ceiling game.
Yes, Scoot this year without Ayton, Williams, and Grant, 22% usage, 1 fantasy point per minute. So, solid. I would like to see the usage a little higher, but 22 at a fantasy point per minute is fine. And then we'll circle back to Banton. You like Delano Banton?
I'm a little concerned about the role. I know he played a bunch 2 games ago, but then we saw him. He played 24 minutes 2 games ago. Then he fell back to 17. If he lands in that upper teens range as opposed to the low 20s, it's going to be hard for him to get there. I do think that there's blowout. Like he would play in a blowout, I think. And Philly is certainly kind of a wreck. They just lost Oubre. If Paul George sits as well, I think you can put a blowout on the table for Portland. And then I would have interest in Banton. So I would say Paul George is actually the key to whether I have Banton in my player pool. If George is ruled out, I might sprinkle some Banton.
Yeah, his range of outcomes is very wide, very, very wide. Let's go to shooting guard. Actually, before we go to shooting guard, we'll hit the chat. Roly Poly first in the building. Roly, what's going on, brother? Happy Monday. JC Jamesy boy. I don't know if anyone's ever called me that other than my mother. Give us that winner. That is Keith's job today. Keith is going to give you the winner today. That's you go over to fantasyalarm.com. Keith's playbook is up right now on site, and you can read through that and pick out your winners. He has the whole shebang. The cores are already out. Everything. The Prince.
Subject to change though on those cores. We got a lot of news yet to go.
Subject to change on the cores for sure. But they are current. Paul George currently remains questionable per Nick Nurse. Subject to change for sure. Late. I see that you're late, but you're still here. Like you were here like maybe 4 players in, so you're always on top. You're always here. I never doubt you're not gonna be here. Coach Chris, yo, what's up? Burks, if Mitchell is out, I think that's a good question before we move on.
Yes, I do think that's a good question. We saw him start for Wiggins in the last game. Only played 24 minutes, but still got there. He can be a huge usage guy at times, so I don't mind it if Mitchell is out. If Mitchell and Wiggins play, then I don't think he has a role, and we can't play him. But definitely a name to monitor, pending news.
This stat line that you see right here was all in the third quarter yesterday. He had 2 fantasy points going into half. 8 minutes and 2 fantasy points.
He can do that. But
I know because I was tilting my skull off with Alec Burks, and then he resurrected and made all of his shots in the second half. And you're right, that's what he can do. He's a flamethrower when he gets going. And I completely agree. Definitely contingent on who's in and who's out for Miami. Let's go to shooting guard. Dez, blessings to you. Let's get it. And Stacks, yo. And Dez, sorry. You should be sorry, Dez. You should be. You think that's what Nick Sirianni and your Eagles would like if you were late to practice? No, they wouldn't. They didn't win a Super Bowl because they were late to practice, Dez. So get your act together, okay? Shooting guard. Zach LaVine, Malik Monk, Desmond Bane, Jalen Green. Not going to whip out the Bane impersonation tonight. You guys, if you know, you know. You watch the pre-show, you know. Simons, we talked about. Talk to me about this top half of shooting guard, because you and I didn't like it a lot, other than like potential news breaking our way, and then I have changed my tune on that. I want to see if you have as well.
On one player particularly, maybe, and then another guy that we talked about quite a bit if news breaks his way. But the Sacramento guys, I think, are just priced up enough where I don't need to go there tonight. Maybe you have a different take on that, but Levine got a big price bump. He did find a ceiling the other day, but I don't feel good about the Sacramento situation. Now Sabonis is out. Maybe that helps him enough, but just not something I'm chasing. I think point guard is just a much stronger position to spend at. So I'm probably going to live in the shooting in the mid-range for shooting guard quite a bit. Bane is the guy that I would pay up for, especially if Ja is out. I mean, then it's not even a conversation. He becomes one of the best plays on the slate. The more interesting conversation is what to do if Ja is in. And I think Bane is still a very good play. Just given the game total, a guy who can score 30 actual points pretty easily and nobody would blink. Jalen Green is the other name that we need to talk about because of the amount of questionable guys on the Houston injury report. If they all get ruled out, suddenly Jalen Green finds himself in a spot where he could be flirting with 40% usage. Never afraid to chuck it. So have my eye on Jalen Green as a potential pending news. Oubre got ruled out. So I think that about covers it until we get into more like the 5K range.
So the guy I've changed my tune on is Levine. And I like Sacramento way more than I liked last night, just looking at like through things. I don't know if I like Levine or DeRozan more, but I am really interested in that game because of how much it matters to these teams and how much like kind of playoff implications it could have. Plus the minutes have been tremendous on both sides for like primarily their main guys. But like you look at Levine in every competitive game, basically since he joined the team, that you will not find 35 or less than 35 minutes. Zach LaVine this year, it's a 100-minute sample. Obviously he hasn't played a lot without Sabonis because, Sabonis is usually on the floor. 31% usage rate, 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Those are stuff that you would play at when he was a Chicago Bull at $8,000. And like during the midst of that stretch where Levine was like a top 5 player in the NBA when he scored 30 points in like 8 straight games, like this price is even cheaper than that. There's no one really on Dallas. Max Christie's a good on-ball defender, so you have that to like, I guess, to be concerned with. But a 5% usage bump is massive. Up to 31% is massive. That would be like top 10 in the league, over the course of a season. And you said it. There's a ceiling, and in this game where it's going to be competitive, there's going to be max minutes for Levine and company. That would be the one guy I changed my tune on. And we're going to get to DeRozan in a second. Those would be like, Valanciunas is in a category of his own because of the price. But like, I love the idea of a Levine or DeRozan plus Valanciunas with a Kyrie coming back. Like, I love the thought of getting 120 minutes out of those 3 players, essentially. And then all 3 of those guys just with massive ceilings, or 4, I guess, depending on if you pick Levine or DeRozan. So that's the only thing that I differentiate with you on like this tier, because I agree on your Bane take. Obviously, we'd have to talk Jalen if they rule everybody out, but I do think Levine is the one guy that I could really talk myself into.
Yeah, I can certainly get on board. I mentioned the ceiling, and I think that's what you're chasing there. I love the idea of doing the little game stack or 3-man there with Levine, because you're betting on that game to stay competitive and close and seeing big minutes. So stacking him with Joel and somebody like Kyrie, I love playing it that way.
Yeah, that's the direction that I would handle it if I'm playing a Levine or when we get to DeRozan. But let's go down the list even further. You had previously mentioned Shade and Sharp. Is this where we're settling in now that we know the statuses of everything in Portland?
Yes, just think there's potential for big minutes here. Saw 38 in the last game. He wasn't great. He shot just 7 for 20 from the floor. He still had 30 fantasy points. If you're giving me 38 minutes from Shaden Sharp at 6,200, we know he can be a usage guy. There's a ceiling there. I'm heavily interested in Sharp here.
Would you consider pivoting off Sharp for Tumani Kamara?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Another guy who's going to play huge minutes. He does it in a little bit different way. He fills the stat sheet a little bit more, where Sharp is more of a scorer. But yeah, totally fine with that.
Okay, I was dreading this moment, but we got to talk about it. Is it okay? Let me ask you first. Is it chasing? Is it chasing? Are we chasing the Quentin Grimes 44 actual point game here?
So the X factor here is Tyrese Maxey, in my opinion. Is Maxey going to go back to the 30% usage guy he has been throughout his career without Joel Embiid on the floor?
Right.
If he is, then I think yes, a little bit. Without Oubre now, it's definitely safer. So let's put that
and
out
possibly
there.
PG and possibly PG.
If George is ruled out as well, it's not chasing. Grimes is one of the best values on the slate. There should be legitimately high 20s usage at a minimum.
Yep.
I am concerned that Maxey just takes over again. And we didn't talk about Maxey much, but like that's another guy who has a ceiling, a massive ceiling. Anytime Embiid has been out in his past career. So we have not seen that from him recently. I have that in the back of my mind that Maxey can flip that switch anytime he wants and take up 35% usage. There's not much left for Grimes, especially if Paul George is on the floor as well, if Maxey does that. So I think there's a lot of risk. I think that he's going to be higher owned than projections say he will because of what he did in the last game. With that in mind, I probably end up under the field on him today, unless Paul George is ruled out. If Paul George is out, it's a different conversation. Now you have no George, no Oubre. Oubre's about 20% usage. George is up 25% or better. So then we're having a different conversation. But if George plays, I don't feel the need to chase Grimes all that much. He's still a good play, but I do think there's some risk there.
Prior to the Oubre out news, Quentin Grimes' ownership was 7%.
I'd be in at that ownership number. I don't think that's where he lands, though.
I don't think that was prior to the Oubre. So like I only imagine Oubre in that same breath, it was 18%. So
so I would have had those flipped before just because it's a recency bias game and we just saw it from Grimes. So I think Grimes would have been higher owned than Oubre. And like I said, projections aren't going to pick up what Grimes just did. Like you just can't project him for 35. No. We looked up his usage last night. It was 35% in that last game. Like you can't project that for Quentin Grimes. He's never been that guy.
Wait, so Tyrese Maxey isn't a 15.3% usage guy?
No, I don't believe so.
No, hopefully not, right?
Sample sizes, if you're leaning into the larger sample, it would suggest no.
What about underneath Quentin Grimes? There's one guy specifically catching a lot of ownership. Revenge narrative, might I add, with no Tobias Harris. Malik Beasley is getting all the ownership love tonight. He is highly rostered with the expectation that he starts this game without Toby. They could just move Asar Thompson down to power forward and operate that way. Are you in or are you out a 35% rostered Malik Beasley?
I hate the ownership number,
but
I love this spot for Malik Beasley. Utah allows the most 3-pointers in the NBA. What does Malik Beasley do? How does he get there? He's shown a 40-point fantasy ceiling. We can't discount that. He gets there by making a ton of threes. And Utah
he's shown a 40 actual point ceiling. He almost had 40 in a game.
Yeah. Shooting threes is how he's going to get there, and Utah gives up the most threes. So I totally get the ownership. It's a volatile player who needs to make his threes to hit a ceiling. That feels like a little too much ownership for that type of profile. I loved Malik Beasley last night. I loved him this morning until I saw ownership. It has me backing off a little bit. I think he's a fantastic play. I just wish he wasn't as popular.
You think he starts, right? You think that's just the easy plug and play with no Toby?
Let me look at that real quick. Yes, I do. Schroeder's there, but it is probably Malik Beasley. Yep.
Yeah, I guess they could go Schroeder. That's a good one too. Schroeder's actually catching a lot of ownership. Not someone we've mentioned at point guard, but there is some ownership behind Dennis Schroeder as well.
Yeah, thoughts on that? I mean, I don't mind the price. He's going to run into more minutes, but he just hasn't done much. And I know he hasn't played a lot.
He's been pretty good per minute. He's been pretty good per minute with the team. I'm okay with it. If he starts, I would have a lot of interest in that game.
Yeah, I agree. If he's starting, it's different.
I think he was a Utah Jazz for a day, wasn't he? During the trade deadline, wasn't he? Didn't he get traded to Utah and then rerouted to Detroit?
I believe that is correct. Yes, I don't remember exactly.
Utah was involved in every single trade. Utah was involved in every trade at the deadline. Somehow they were involved in every trade. So I think Dennis Schroeder said, I think there was a Sentel that said he was going to retire if he had to play for Utah this year. Shout out to NBA Sentel. Thoughts on Ricky Council? We'll get there at power forward, Beantown. Alec Burks, we talked about roly-poly. We kind of like Alec Burks, but it's contingent on some of the Miami Heat news. And then perfect name for your next kid. Listen, Des, there's no next kid. There's two, and it's staying two. There ain't no more next kid. There will not be any more little grandes running around, at least for me. Maybe one day my sister, but not for me. Not for me. Let's see. What news have we? Have Tuesday news. Don't care. Wish we Jimmy Butler remains probable. There you go. Let's keep our ascent down the shooting guard spot. We didn't talk Harris LeVert. We didn't talk Dallas. I don't know if you want to talk either of them. Anything below that really piques your interest down here? Oh, we could have talked Schroeder here. Sorry. I mean, he was at shooting guard anyway.
Yeah, Schroeder is definitely the most interesting name, but we touched on that. Cason Wallace is going to play a bunch of minutes. Pending some Houston stuff, maybe he gets blowout run too, or at least extended a little bit more than the other guys. So I don't mind some shots there if Houston's missing some pieces. Marcus Smart with no Jordan Poole, I could be talked into. I don't love it. He just hasn't played the minutes. But if Miami becomes shorthanded here, it's not a tough matchup like we're used to. If Wiggins and Mitchell were out, it would be an easier matchup. So I don't hate Smart. I wish we had seen more minutes from him.
Yeah, that's the tough part. We just don't know if the minutes will ever get bumped, right? Just kind of like, are they just comfortable playing Marcus Smart in this 20-minute role? It seems that way.
Yeah.
Anything else of note?
I think that's it.
We'd click Cam Whitmore so fast if all those guys got rolled out.
Yes.
Easiest click of the day if everyone gets rolled out.
Yep.
Small forward. Amin Thompson, we already talked about. He'd be for sure in our player pool if he's in and a bunch of other guys are out. J-Dub, 81 coming off. Just an absolute masterclass. Didn't even play full minutes, but 41, 7, 6, 1-1 last night. Made 4 threes, 8,100. Talked Levine. Jimmy, we just got the update. Jimmy's going to be probable. PG is questionable. DeRozan, 74. What do we like in this tier of small forward?
Yeah, I'll leave DeRozan for you. Sounds like you have a little bit of interest there. I'm not sure how that compares to your Levine interest. George is interesting if he plays. Have seen some positive trends from him recently. I mean, it was a really rough stretch there for a while. Had that ceiling game against the Knicks. And he played pretty well against Golden State last time out. It's just Quentin Grimes was making every shot he took. So that kind of limited George a little bit. But George had a pretty nice game. If he had a little bit more volume and had put up 2 ceiling games in a row, I think we'd have a different conversation around him. Obviously, he's questionable. We'll see if he plays. But I think he's an interesting play if he is in there.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Nick Nurse came out and said, like, they're not shutting things down yet. Yeah. They're still going for it.
Huge minutes the last 2. I think that continues. Upper 30s.
That also probably has led to this left groin soreness as well.
Yeah, could be.
he's a brittle fellow. Yeah, Marcus, Malik Beasley. Yeah, I mean, from Milwaukee, but he played for Utah for half a season. He played for Utah, Minnesota, the Lakers. So he's. I don't care for revenge. I was more so joking, but he did spend time in Utah, which, there's a reason why he probably only spent half a season in Utah. Probably didn't like it very much. But yeah, he did play for the Utah Jazz at some point. Look. I said it. I am in on the Kings more than I was last night. Another guy who can play just massive minutes here. I was doing some art like the affiliate articles today, and I found it fascinating to see DeMar DeRozan's assist percentage go up 13% when Domantas Sabonis off the floor. A 13% assist bump. Then I looked. I was like, oh, also, when you remove both Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, no longer there, it's a 7% usage bump. And we're talking about a guy with almost 1.3 fantasy points per minute in that pocket, over 100-minute sample. And again, another situation where, I've talked about it a bunch already on the show, but in a must-win game, we're going to see 40 minutes out of DeRozan, assist percentage up, usage rate up. And Dallas, when you think about the construct of their team, has no rim protection. When we think about DeMar DeRozan, you think mid-range and it's constantly attacking the rim. There's nothing that this team is going to be able to do to keep DeMar DeRozan from getting 2 feet in the paint all night. So I have definitely warmed up to the idea of DeRozan. LaVine is obviously the better eligibility when it comes to these two, because you have the shooting guard, small forward stuff with LaVine. But DeRozan's a little bit cheaper. I like the spot for him a little bit better. He'll avoid the Max Christie stuff, and he'll get like Klay Thompson, who's not going to be able to stay in front of him going to the basket. So I like DeRozan quite a bit at 74.
The assist rate stuff is really interesting. Good note there. Usage, I'm a little more skeptical of, just because you add LaVine with Fox out. Like,
it's true.
So it's not quite a 1-to-1 if you just take Fox and Sabonis off. But I'm picking up what you're putting down there. I do think the assist rate is real.
Let's see. If you put LaVine on the floor in that scenario, it's a 5% usage bump up to about almost 29.5, 1.27 fantasy points per minute. So
still really strong.
Yeah, it's still a very small sample. Obviously, him and LaVine haven't had much time without Sabonis, but you can see those two are going to be your primary 1 and 2 options in that situation. When we drop below DeMar DeRozan, Andrew Wiggins being questionable at 68 is an option. Denny Avdia coming off, flatly the best game of his career. I mean, 30, 12, and 10. Going up against Philadelphia, really good matchup for him. No more Oubre, but we have Bilal Coulibaly. We talk Sharp. We talk Kamara. What do you like in this mid-tier range?
Yeah, Avdia is the guy that stands out, and I wish he wouldn't have went for a triple-double, a 30-point triple-double at that, his last time out, because he's going to catch quite a bit of ownership today. I would have been more interested just knowing he has a chance to play upper 30s minutes without Jeremy Grant. But because we just saw the explosion game, I think people chase that a little bit. Going to be heavily owned, as he probably should be, though. He has a massive ceiling without Jeremy Grant. Like you said, we talked about a lot of the other guys just below this. Najee Marshall is the first name we need to talk about that we have not. Dallas extremely shorthanded. Should have a larger role. Should play 30-plus minutes. Probably too cheap for that role. So I have some interest in Najee Marshall for sure.
He just needs to make shots, dude.
Yeah.
He needs to make shots. He can't make a 3 to save his life. I mean, if he just makes a couple threes, we're cooking with gas.
Yep.
But we're trying to rub 2 sticks together right now with Najee Marshall. That's what it looks like. But they're literally giving him open looks. He's just not making them. What about Asar? We liked Asar last night, and we didn't even realize Tobias was out. Have to assume, knock on wood, I won't because my dogs will start barking. Have to assume the minutes probably as close to 30 as we are going to get if he stays out of foul trouble, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're still going to limit him to some degree, I think. I don't think they just want to fully take the leash off. So, like 34 is out of the question, but 30 is in the range of outcomes,
30.
I think.
Yeah, 30. That's all. I'm not asking for much. 30. That's all I would ask for.
Yep. And I don't care. If he's getting 27, he's still one of my favorite plays on the slate. I think he is an outstanding pivot off of Beasley. The Jazz, talked about them allowing the most three-pointers. Asar doesn't shoot three-pointers, so that's not how he's getting there.
Yeah.
The way Asar is getting there is through the turnovers. The Jazz allow the most steals and blocks in the entire league, and that is what Asar does. The defensive stats is what I am extremely interested in this matchup against a very turnover-prone team. So Asar is one of my favorite plays in the mid-range.
What Detroit chalk are you more comfortable with? Asar Thompson or Malik Beasley?
I am more comfortable with Asar. I just think the floor is better. Beasley needs to hit those threes. If he has a cold shooting night, you're up a creek with Beasley. Asar can get there in so many different ways. If Beasley's starting, I probably feel better about Beasley's minutes, but I still prefer the floor of Asar.
Okay, we have massive news. The Miami Heat have not only ruled out Andrew Wiggins, they have not only ruled out Jaime Jaquez, they also have ruled out none other than Davion Mitchell.
Wheels up for Alec Burks, baby. Let's go.
What does Miami do with their starting lineup?
Yeah, because Jovic is out. It's got to be Highsmith, right?
No Khalil Ware, no Wiggins, no Jovic, no Jaquez, no Davion. So
don't even say the name. Don't say the name that I know is already in your mind.
Here's my guess at their starting lineup. You ready? Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo.
Obvious locks.
Yes. Alec Burks.
Yep.
Duncan Robinson.
Yep.
Haywood Highsmith, baby.
Thank you. I agree. Kyle Anderson is the name that it could be, but I think
no, it can't. It can't. We've seen this. We've seen this. No, it can't. No, it can. You're not wrong.
Highsmith seems to be ahead, so I agree. That's the 5 I would have named as well.
Okay. For what it's worth, second leg of their last back-to-back, Kyle Anderson played 28 minutes.
Don't talk me into it.
I'm not. I'm just providing
facts. Yep.
Yes.
Fair enough.
I was just providing a fact. Because I will do anything in my power not to play Haywood Highsmith.
Yeah, agree. Anderson has been a better fantasy point per minute guy in his career. So if he is the guy in the starting lineup, I have more interest in Anderson than Highsmith. It just the situation where he was chalk and it did not work out is going to be in everyone's mind for sure.
Because legitimate question though, if Anderson's not playing, who are they playing off the bench? Right. Terry Rozier is back in the rotation as your backup guard.
Yep.
Anderson is a creator. For as slow as he is a good playmaker creator that would fit perfectly into the Jovic Jaquez role. And then could it be Pelle Larsson? Do they dust off Kevin Love? Kevin Love's create a lot of dust on Kevin Love. They'd have to really but
speaking of per minute guys.
No, dude, I saw the numbers earlier. I was like, oh my God, they're going to start Kevin Love because Khalil Ware's out. They're going to be weird and start Kevin Love.
I mean, are you interested in Kevin Love at 20 minutes if he's starting?
Yes, but I don't know if we get 20 minutes.
8, it's probably 18. You're right.
He hasn't gotten 20. His most this year was 19. To be fair, he had almost 30 fantasy points in the 19 minutes. But he's played 3 times in the year 2025, and we're in March 3rd.
Yeah.
So even if he were to start, I just,
like you said, though, who else do they have? Are they down to 9?
They have Pelle Larsson. They have Keshad Johnson active.
Yeah.
They have all those G Leaguers that are with the team. So I can let me look. Let's see what their official injury report says and see if they actually do have all these guys available. Because I assume Josh Christopher's out. Kashad Johnson's out. Isaiah Stevens out. Okay, that changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
All those players are listed on the 5:30 report as inactive.
And that they could change. They could call somebody up.
Yes.
Like that could become unavailable by the next injury report. But
okay, we have it right here. Ready? I have the available list right here from Heat beat writer Brady Hawk.
Perfect.
He also lists Pelle Larsson as the starter. Okay.
Oof.
So we'll see. We'll see. That's not official, but the way that he grouped it. Hero, Robinson, Pelle Larsson, Haywood Highsmith, Bam Adebayo, and then they have 9. You're correct. Rozier, Burks, Anderson, Love. That's their 9 available.
So if Love starts instead of Larson or Highsmith, I think he has to play 18 minutes. At least.
Listen, it's the Heat. That's the problem. Yeah. It's the Heat. I played starting Alec Burks last night. He played 8 first half minutes, right? He played really well in the third quarter, and Spoelstra was like forced to play him again. It's like such a hot hand approach. But with Kevin Love, he just never – you are not wrong. Per minute, Kevin Love is great. But this is not like where we were talking about it with Moses Brown the other day. Moses Brown's in his 20s. Kevin Love's in like year 20 in the NBA. So that's would be my only hang up. So would you have exposure to Kevin Love if he's in the starting lineup? Yes. But you're a large field. Okay. Put your single entry hat on or like smaller field stuff. Would you play Kevin Love if he's
it's extremely, extremely risky. For one, he's the first guy off the court in a blowout, no question about it. Yes. Can this version of the Heat blow out Washington? I don't know about that. If I knew he was getting 18 minutes, I would play him in single entry for sure. There's significant risk though. He could do where he starts and plays a 6-minute shift and doesn't come back until the second half, and he plays 6 minutes in the second half. You end with 12 minutes and he doesn't get there. But if you promised me 18 minutes at minimum price, Kevin Love as an awesome fantasy point per minute player in an awesome matchup, yeah, if he's starting, I'd play him in single entry.
Okay, we're gonna keep talking Heat for a few minutes. Max Heat you'd play in a lineup because it's Washington. 9 available, like you said.
Yeah, just looking at prices.
Dude, they're so cheap. Outside of Bam and Hero, they are so cheap.
Right, and I'd probably avoid Bam and Hero together. I don't think you have to, but I think I would want to for the majority.
Agreed.
And then I'd be fine with that with 2 others. Like if I wasn't going Bam Hero, I'd be fine with 3 for sure.
Max 3. Okay. Let's revisit Duncan Robinson. In or out on Duncan?
I think he starts. He wasn't.
Agreed.
Yeah, he wasn't in the beat writers like group of starters, right?
He was not. No.
Right. Yeah. I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
Oh no, was. Oh, Burks. Okay. Alec Burks was not.
Gotcha. So.
But yeah, also Alec Burks, Eric Spoelstra. Ready? Here's the quote. And this is feeding into your Kevin Love propaganda. Quote, 9 guys are available. 9 guys are going to play.
Let's roll.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right.
That's the worst quote possible from a coach that is going to give 9 guys 20 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I do think that's pretty close to the range of outcomes. Obviously, you're going to see a couple guys go 24 and some go 18. But
Hero, right? Hero is your
he's lock. Yeah. And Bam, you have to feel pretty good about with
Bam,
as thin as they are.
Okay, let's continue our ascent down. Thoughts on Terry Rozier? He's one of the 9.
Yeah, I mean, he has not played minutes recently, but he has to in this spot, especially if you don't feel good about Kevin Love playing 20 minutes. Rozier has to be out there.
Would you have to have him start to have a lot of interest at 43?
To have a lot of interest, yes, but to sprinkle him in large field tournaments, no. I think he's fine off the bench in a 22 to 24 minute role.
Pelle Larsson, min salary if he starts.
Oh boy,
He is the most foul happy player I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah, I don't think so, honestly. Even though he's min price starting, I would prefer Love starts, and I'd take my shots there.
Okay. And then, like, if Burks or Anderson starts, they're just locked and loaded.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to get
Burks in play even if he does not start.
Okay.
Like, he's the guy. Like, the 24 minutes last time as a starter, even if he comes off the bench this time, I think 30 is the right number. They're just more shorthanded than they were last game.
Sure.
With Mitchell out. Mitchell's been playing 37 minutes a night.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's totally true. All right, enough heat. We'll move on. But obviously, that was
huge news there.
Yeah, nine players available is 9 players available. I think we are mostly through power forward. I think we last talked Najee and Asar. Are we going back to the Sensabaugh, Will?
I think I'm over it, honestly. Is there a path where he could, like, he did finally play 30 minutes, which is the most he's played all season. He had not been above 28.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Like, and he's been on a really shorthanded team starting before and not played over 28 minutes.
Yep.
It was really frustrating because I chased it for a long time. I jump off and then he finally plays 30 minutes. So I still just don't. He's not good enough per minute. He can be good per minute, but he hasn't shown it recently enough where I want to chase that.
Oh, we were at small forward. All right. Richeche probably in play at 45, played big minutes last game. Anything else you want to shout out at small forward? Are you ready to move on to power forward?
I don't see anything else worth talking about.
Yeah, I actually like Richeche. That would be the guy I'd shout out in tournaments. I think he's interesting. Let's go to power forward. Miles Bridges, Bam Adebayo, obviously big talking point now. Triple J, Chet. What do we like at the top of power forward?
Yeah, Bam stands out now. I think the Killel Ware absence is a big boost to him. He hasn't shown a ceiling recently, and it's tied to Hero just taking over. I know it doesn't look pretty if you look back, but it's a different spot because Ware is out. He moves back to the 5. He should have double upside without even thinking about it, and a long shot triple-double upside. I think it's a phenomenal spot for him. It's a phenomenal matchup, and he's in a different role than he has been. So I originally left him off the playbook before we had. I would have added him now that the Heat are so shorthanded, but he was in the original playbook as a core play at that because of the matchup and because of the new role once Ware was ruled out, or the old role really, where we could play Bam at this price tag. He's overpriced for what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, but without Ware, I think Bam has a much higher ceiling.
Dude, there is some triple-double upside. This is something that I would bet too. Like, and in years past, like no Jimmy, no like other pieces, I'd bet Bam triple-doubles, and he has had a handful of them. Yeah, so I agree. There is a ceiling despite him not showing it lately. I just need to get it past my 8,400 has not been a price that has been too kind to Bam Adebayo this year.
Correct.
What else? Is there anything else? I mean, Jaren Jackson is the name if Ja sits. Okay.
Yes. Massive usage without Ja on the floor. Has been playing big minutes when he can stay out of foul trouble. And it's the game environment.
The game environment. And Safety Aldama downgraded too. So maybe some extra minutes to be had for Triple J. Moving our way down, where's the next name that you want to get to? I saw Santi was in your playbook. You want to talk Aldama?
Yeah, it's going to what the role has been. Obviously, last game he smashed, but that was without John Morant and Desmond Bane. So him being in there, not knowing if Ja is going to play, says something to. I think it's increased. They've favored him over Edey a little bit more here recently, and he's been playing closer to upper 20s minutes than lower 20 minutes that he was seeing. The price has come up, so it's a borderline play if Ja does play. If Ja's out, Santi's going to be a core play, no doubt about it. But if Ja does play, I still think he could play Aldama. He has some ceiling, and it's a game environment that I want to get into as much as possible.
If Aldama plays himself.
Correct. Obviously. Yep.
Yeah. Value tier. Yabusele probably starts with the Kelly Oubre news, would definitely start with the Paul George news. I guess that's another thing we'll have to see what Philly's starting lineup looks like now that Oubre's out. Dylan Brooks is questionable. What, if anything, in the value range sticks out?
Keyshawn George is interesting without Jordan Poole. There's plenty of usage to go around. The numbers didn't look great. It's hard to pin down this situation because there's a trade that happened, obviously, with Kuzma, and even Jared Butler was a huge bump in usage with Poole off the floor. So it's difficult to pin down here. But you've taken Kyle Kuzma, Jared Butler, Jordan Poole, and Malcolm Brogdon all off the floor. All of those guys are usage guys.
And Valanciunas.
And Valanciunas, another usage guy. The guys that you've replaced them with are Marcus Smart, Rashawn Holmes. Who am I missing here? Middleton, who's much lower usage than Kyle Kuzma. Middleton's been around 21% usage with Washington. Kuzma was up around 29%. Like the replacements for the people that they're coming in for are all lower usage guys than the Washington players that are not playing tonight or former Washington players. Keyshawn George could find a pretty decent role here. It's kind of speculating a little bit. It's certainly not guaranteed. But as a large field tournament player, I'll take some shots.
Yeah, I like the minutes too. The minutes seem really secure. If Houston rules everybody else out, Keyshawn George or Jabari Smith, if you had a final spot at 5,200.
Oh, guys! Speaking of guys that have been frustrating to play this season.
Yes. All his whole career.
His whole career. Man. Shame. The potential has to be there for Jabari Smith, you would think, but he has not been able to tap into it. No. I think I lean George, as wild as it is to say. Matchup against OKC is not great. What does he start and play 30 minutes if enough guys are out?
I think he starts. I think he starts tonight anyway, because there's no VanVleet. So I think Jabari would be like the most likely to start, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I think I need Thompson out too to want to play him.
Yep, agreed. We'll get to some comments. We'll finish up with center and building a lineup. I have played Beasley for a week. Might as well keep going. Yeah, might as well keep going. I should have won an Oscar last night for the worst lineup created. Buddy, unless you played Svi Mihailuk, you did not have worse lineup than me. Dave, I agree. More people now, but please smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all that stuff. Power, appreciate all the news updates with who's playing. What up, guys? Sorry, what did I miss? The whole show, Jerome. But welcome. Appreciate your support each and every day in the comment section and showing up every day. James, and I'll throw Keith in there. With Cade and SGA, the only players projected over 50 fantasy points, would you consider a balanced build?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that at the top of the show a little bit. There really isn't a massive spend. SGA is on a back-to-back, and if Houston's healthy, they're a fantastic defensive team. So he's not even a guy that's really a priority to get up to.
Nope.
So yeah, I mean, not having a player above 9,500, I don't think is crazy today.
Jaime Jaquez also out. Duncan Robinson season says Power definitely could be one of the 9 players that will be playing tonight. Faisal said 3 Heat that he would go to: Duncan, Burks, and Hero. I would assume those would probably check in as the 3 highest rostered if you got that starting lineup that was projected out there, or if Burks was starting. Filipowski in play. We'll get to center here in 1 second. Is Middleton more attractive? Asked Beantown.
How many minutes can he play is the thing. That's my biggest concern. Like, obviously the matchup got easier. I just feel like he probably has a 25-minute ceiling, and I don't know if that's enough. I
feel the same. You could play him, might get you 30-something fantasy points, but I don't know what the ceiling is with the minutes. What's ownership looking like? It's going to be a lot of Miami after the recent news. So buckle up, buddy. We got 9 Heat available to go tonight. K Love, nuke of the night. You're looking at Caleb's number one fan on the bottom of this show right there. Keith is all in.
I'm glad. Oh, who? Oh, you're talking. I'm his number one fan.
Yeah,
or...
you.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I am intrigued. Call me intrigued for sure.
Casey's asking Fontecchio or Beasley. Casey, what's going on, man? Fontecchio or Beasley for you?
I mean, with Beasley starting, I don't think that's even close. Yeah, Fontecchio just hasn't seen. I mean, with Toby out, obviously there's a potential he sees more minutes, but Beasley's locked in. Beasley's going to be out there. I'm not sure Fontecchio will.
I am not even convinced he would start. I feel like they would go Holland. I feel like if it's something different, I think they would go Ron Holland over Beasley. Like that would be my guess because we saw the Holland starting earlier in the year too. Like if there was we talked Schroeder, like they could obviously go double point guard as well.
Midday downgrade we didn't talk about Isaiah Stewart. If Isaiah Stewart gets ruled out, now we might be into some Fontecchio.
B-ball Paul, baby. Come on.
There you go.
Come on. B-ball Paul. Let's go to center where B-ball Paul plays. Talk to me about center. I mean, Şengün's questionable. You know, we'll see about what we want to do with Houston in general. Bam, 84 we talked about. Triple J, 8K we talked about. We didn't talk Mark Williams. We did in the pre-show. Jalen Duren, you just mentioned Stewart. Midday downgrade. 69 for Duren. 68 for Walker Kessler, one of the Utah guys, not on the injury report. We talked to Kongwu extensively this morning. Like, what do you like at center tonight?
Yeah, so there are some guys I like in the upper range, but the mid-range, there's two plays that I absolutely love. They're going to be popular, but I think they should be because they're both extremely underpriced. Yep. I mean, Jovel's the obvious one.
Yes.
He's going to be the highest roster player on the slate, as he should be.
Yes.
An awesome point per minute producer, and he has a path to 30-plus minutes tonight. Yep. Just saw him play really well in 29 minutes after Sabonis left that game, so just run it right back with Jovel. That's going to limit what I can do with the rest because I'm going to have so much exposure there. I do like Mark Williams. We saw that ceiling show up again. We talked about it extensively on the preview show. I'm struggling to get as much of him as I would like because I prefer Jalen Duren. The matchup against Utah, I mentioned earlier in the show, they allow the most blocks in the league. That is how Duren just found a ceiling in his last performance with 6 blocks. Right. So running it right back with Jalen Duren, I think it's an awesome spot for him.
Yeah. And I feel like with Stewart's not available, there may be a couple minute extra.
Yeah, raises the floor for sure. Yeah, and the ceiling. Yep.
Yeah. Because they'll play B-ball Paul, but I don't think you see like the 18 minutes that Stewart gets nightly when, Duren plays 30 and then you get the 48-minute split. I agree on your Duren call. I like him quite a bit in tournaments. Love Jovel. I love Okongwu tonight. I think he is vastly underpriced. I said that last slate. Again, he went out for a 40 bomb against OKC. I think I have the same sentiments against Memphis as well. Is there anything below? I mean, Drummond probably penciled in for more minutes than he had last time out, right? You'd have to assume with Oubre being out and then possibly Paul George. I mean, we're trending towards the Yabusele Drummond starting lineup.
Yes, Drummond snuck into the playbook because as I was looking at this Philly roster, it's like he's been playing more recently and they're as shorthanded as they've been, especially now with Oubre out as well. I just think they're running out of options, and Drummond's going to have to go out there. I don't think 30 minutes is out of the question for Andre Drummond, especially if Portland is willing to play Klingon a little bit more. There's two massive dudes there who would match up against each other. So if Klingon's out there, I think Drummond's going to be out there. I don't think 30 minutes is out of the question. He's 5K. Give me 25 minutes, and he can get 20 rebounds. I have some interest in Drummond.
Yeah, we definitely just need Klingon to stay out of foul trouble. That's all.
Yeah.
Hit 6 fouls in 10 minutes last night. Like, dude, just stay out of foul trouble and you'll be good. Anything else, or you want to we'll build and get out of here?
One other name that's sort of interesting, definitely large field only, Quentin Post has been 2 games in a row now. I know Butler was out last game, so that contributed a little bit to the minutes, but has played really well the last 2 games. Maybe he's earned a little bit bigger role. If you can give me 24 minutes, I have interest.
and started the second half of the Orlando game. So like we've had like kind of over Moses Moody. So we've had kind of like when they need to go big, which they will need to go big with Mark Williams on the other side. Mark Williams is a huge person. They will need size. Draymond's obviously physical and good defender, but like Draymond's not. He's 6'5". Like there's not much that Draymond can do against like big dudes. So I like the Quentin Post shout. Let's build our lineup for those at home. We end our show every day with building an example lineup. This is just, based on the thought process. I'm just going to go ahead and kick off the start with Joe Val because
that's a good starting spot. No doubt.
I feel like that's a pretty safe, reliable play. How many Heat are too many Heat?
I would be weary about going 4, but I feel comfortable about going 3 as long as 2 of them aren't Bam and Hero.
Okay. Burks, you liked probably the most, and do you prefer Hero or Bam if we were to spend up for Bam? I feel like the deeper position is point guard.
Yes.
So would you? I also feel like Hero has the higher ceiling of the two. At least that's what he's given us.
I agree with that as well. But I feel like I can match a ceiling, even if Hero puts up the ceiling, I can match it at the position a lot easier than I can at power forward or center. So I agree with your positional take there.
Okay. Bam, Burks. We could go a third. We could just move on. We have Detroit popularity. We have Dallas popular plays. I know you like Asar Thompson quite a bit. You want to plug Asar?
I really like Asar, yes.
Okay. We'll go Asar at the forward spot, and we'll possibly have to revisit that, but we'll see. We have 6,900, nice. Point guard, small forward, or point guard, forward, util. What's next?
Let's go get one of those big point guards, and I'm fine with any of 3 names. Cade Cunningham, Kyrie Irving, or Trae Young. I very much.
Yeah, we don't have Atlanta-Memphis. We don't have that game right now, right? Let me ask you before, who's your favorite play from that game? Number one play, Atlanta-Memphis, is
Ja Morant if he plays.
Okay, do you want to plug Ja then? Because we'll just operate as if like Ja's playing.
And if Ja gets ruled out, there's going to be swaps available.
Yes, so many swaps. Swaps. We have Sacramento. We have Utah exposure. We have Sacramento exposure. We'll know.
Yep. Atlanta price considered, I would say Okongwu.
Okay.
I don't mind Trae. Well, if we got Ja already, we probably can't get to Trae. Daniels, if you want another little bit cheaper piece.
I think we could get to Trae here.
All right.
48.50 remaining. Because we have cheap Heat. We have Richache. We have Terrence Mann, someone that you and I had talked about a lot. We have Malik Beasley we can go to. Everyone's favorite play, Kyle Anderson's down here. Everyone's second favorite play, Haywood Highsmith is down here.
Let's plug in Mann. I feel like we're ahead of the field on that. And how much does that leave it? Just to see where it puts us salary-wise.
5,700 for a util, which Scoot, Clay, Najee Marshall, someone that you liked. We could do Philly, like Yabusele or Drummond. And we'd have like $700 to play with there. Yeah, or we could just move off Trae and do something else to get, you said Daniels. So we could, if we played Dyson Daniels in that, we'd have 8,500 for a final spot.
Let's see what that gives us. 85 is Bridges, no thanks. Bam, we already have. Ja, we already have. We kind of loaded up on that range already.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could also then make a case to pivot off Terrence Mann as well to get like something maybe more balanced as well. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Like if we went up to like Richache or Duncan Robinson at 4,500, 8K, Levine, Bain, DeRozan. Like I that's a tier I probably like a little bit more than you.
Yeah. No, I like Bane, and you've talked me into a little bit of Levine. So if you want to plug your specialty in there of Levine, I'm fine with that.
Now let's go Bane. Let's stick with the 250 total. A little fair and balanced lineup. We had the question earlier about who asked us? Marcus, about doing fair and balanced. Right here. Here's a fair and balanced build, and obviously, things will change if Ja Morant is ruled out. We're pivoting right to one Jaren Jackson and a bunch of other things. But Morant, Burks, Ricochet, Adebayo, Valanciunas, Daniels, Asar Thompson, Desmond Bane. $400 left over. Big salute to you, Keith. A big salute to you guys in the chat for tuning in. A lot of comments. I see a lot of comments. One more, Keith. I know we're running late, and I'm sorry. I talk too much. Any advice for breaking out of a cold spell? Zach wants to ask.
I think you just have to erase it from your memory. As long as you feel confident in your process and you're analyzing the right things in minutes and rates rather than what the guy did in his last game, you just have to know that it's going to turn around. Like DFS, you're going to go through those streaks. It's like you can revisit your process and just kind of fine tune it, make sure that you're not making any egregious mistakes. But as long as you feel confident in your process, you just got to keep on chugging, man. It'll turn eventually if your process is good.
I think that bingo. I think the process, and if you need to reset or just make sure you're following the process, right? Go back to how you started having success and go back to what you were doing then and think about if you've changed anything since then, any routines. It's like anything in life. I think a good routine with your process will yield results at the end of the day. So I agree completely, Keith, with the process thoughts. But big salute to everyone in the chat today for showing up. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll be back with the pre-show tomorrow.
John's back tomorrow, right?
John is traveling currently from Europe. He is back tomorrow.